Give me 5 differences between real estate in Ghana versus real estate in the UK.
Okay. So real estate in the UK is pretty straightforward in my opinion because when someone calls you or someone sends a message, they're giving you the information. They know you're a professional, so they're happy to, if you request things like AIP in principle, where do you want to move to, what's your budget, have you got a mortgage, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They're readily happy to give it to you.
Yeah.
Over in Ghana, it's very coy, right?
Okay.
They don't want to give you the information.
Right.
They just want to know, is it available?
Yeah.
When you start to ask them about what's your budget and things like that, how much is it?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
He relocated from the UK to Ghana to start a property business. And I'm excited today because I'm sitting down with Mr. Trevor Tackie to find out more about how he actually made that move from the UK to Ghana and set up an amazing property real estate company here in Ghana. Today we're going to be sitting down, we're going to be exploring all things Ghana real estate, right from the locations to invest in, how to avoid scams, how to actually get started in the property market. So make sure you stay tuned. If you're interested in learning more about how you can get started in Ghana's real estate market, then you're in the right place. Make sure you hit on the subscribe button. Make sure you hit on the notification bell so you don't miss out on my future videos. And also give this video a thumbs up so it can be pushed out to many, many more people. And also drop something in the comments. Let me know what you've learned in this video. And guys, let's get into it. Hey guys, and welcome back. So those of you that know, I started this real estate game back in the UK a long time ago, and I met somebody recently who actually grew up in the same area as one of my bosses. And I'm here today with Mr. Trevor Tackie. Hello, Trevor.
Hello,
How
Lorraine.
are you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you, and welcome today.
You.
Let the people know who you are.
Okay, wow.
And what you do.
Yes, so my name is Trevor. I'm Trevor Tackie. I'm from the UK. Born and raised in the UK. Haven't been in the property industry for the last 23 plus years. And that covers both London, Kent, and surroundings, and now we're in Ghana.
In Ghana, indeed. What's the name of your company?
Trevlyn Properties in the UK. We have Trevlyn Properties in the UK, and in Ghana we have Trevlyn Ghana.
Amazing. So what does Trevlyn Ghana do?
So Trevlyn Ghana helps with those that want to migrate from the diaspora and come to Ghana to purchase developments, land acquisitions, properties and rentals. And that's what we do. So we help those that are looking for rental properties, those that are looking to purchase, and those that are looking for land acquisitions.
Amazing. You have been doing real estate in the UK before coming over to Ghana.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us, where it all started for you. I know you're South London born. No, you're South Londoner?
I'm East London born.
But you spent a lot of your career...
I grew up in South.
Okay, you grew up in South. Okay. He's still got the East London accent. You hear it. But just tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into the property space.
Yeah, good question, Lorraine, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. So estate agency started probably for me around about 2001 also, and I accidentally got into it.
Okay.
I was working previous to that with a sort of like A5 directory. It was advertising. It was when internet was just about to go into e-commerce, that sort of thing. And we were ahead of that curve. We knew it was going to happen, but we just didn't know how it was going to happen.
Okay.
So we were trying to merge both text, as in the yellow pages side of things, with internet.
Nice.
So people could use the directory, go online, see the URL addresses, and then be able to just put it onto the online, onto internet, and then be able to access what they wanted to. So it was an A to Z of internet directory. And so that's where the advertising and marketing kind of started from. After that, shortly after that, I kind of migrated from that and was looking for another opportunity, which was how I ended up into a estate agency. Totally by accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I find that a lot of people that kind of enter into the property space, some people are very much, I want to be that, I'm a salesperson.
Yeah.
But you came into it through like negotiation and relationship building, or what was that kind of route?
Well, what happened was I was actually already in marketing and advertising.
Right,
and so that was the kind of field I was in. I really enjoyed that kind of field, relationship building and that sort of stuff. And so when I left that industry, I kind of wanted to go into something more. And I thought it was I saw an advert literally in the Evening Standard saying negotiator.
Right.
And that's what kind of led me to think, okay, then I've seen a film that kind of resembles negotiator thing. I don't know what it was, but I saw this film with Samuel L. Jackson called The Negotiator.
Yeah. You thought it was like that.
Yeah.
You thought like
and I thought,
I
thought I was going in, guns blazing, people want to do this and that.
Yeah.
And that was the excitement, that was the drive behind it. But when I went into it, it was about rentals and it was about sales.
Okay.
So when I got there, I was like, oh, this is quite interesting actually. It's not so dissimilar to marketing and advertising and things like that. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And
there you
as
are.
they say, the rest is history.
Indeed. Okay. So you worked in estate agency in the UK. You were with Andrews?
I was with Andrews. Before I was with Andrews, I was with another company called Oaks.
Okay. I do know Oaks. Okay.
Yeah. So I worked with Oaks. It was a family-owned company. I covered Brockley in a sales office in
South
Brockley.
London?
Yeah.
Right.
Brockley Rise, and we used to cover the Wickham Road and Tresillian and Brockley Rise and all those kind of areas, and there was big houses over there to New Cross and things like that. But what we were finding is that it was solely for sales. It was solely a sales office. And we were getting a lot of walk-ins, clients coming in for rentals and that sort of thing. But the office wasn't able to accommodate it. And I was like, this is wasted opportunity. What's going on? Spoke to my manager. It was like, Trevor, we don't have the capabilities to have the rental lines here. It was solely, back then it was like analog, it was just dated, right? So we just had one computer in the office. There was about 4 or 5 of us in the office, and we had to keep using the computer as one person finished. You go on there and that sort of thing. Otherwise, you had a card that you wrote on. That was back then. And so when these people would come in, I'll be like, why are we not servicing these people? We have an office in Lewisham. We have an office in Forest Hill. They're doing rentals. But we've got people in Brockley who want a rent, and we're sending them next door to another agent.
It
didn't make any sense to me. So we kept having a tussle over there. Months came and went, and I was just like, do you know what? Let me go to rentals because this is mad. Because on the sales side of things, you did a deal. It would take 3 months for it to go through. On the rental side of things, it was quick. I was just like, nah.
Waiting for your
commission and all that kind of stuff. I was like, nah, this can't work for me. So I opted to go to work in Lewisham. At that time, they never had space. So it happened that someone went on maternity leave and a gap came open. When I went over there, Lorraine, I smashed it.
Wow.
I smashed it over there. So that gave me a lot more confidence in the industry. And I was like, this is something I really want to do and follow through with it.
So you followed through with it for some time and then you landed in Ghana,
Yes.
You're Ghanaian, right?
I'm Ghanaian,
With a name like Tackie, he's Ghanaian.
I'm Ghanaian. I'm as Ghanaian as it is. And in fact, I'm Ga.
He's
so
Ga.
Accra is my village, if you didn't know.
Tiote. But just generally, so what led you to Ghana? What led you to come back to Ghana and start in the real estate space in Ghana?
Well, interesting question, because what happened was that before I even came to Ghana, so a bit of backtrack. Born in the UK, raised in the UK, came to Ghana when I was about 4, and then left when I was about 8 years old. Went back, never came back to Ghana again, right? In 2012 was the first time I came back to Ghana.
2012 happens to be the time that I did that was like my year of return. Like,
wow.
I kind of see it as like, I don't know what happened, but 2012 was when I first came without parents, if that makes sense,
That's it.
So,
So that was the time I came. I came with wifey, I came with my older boy, and I was just like, man, Ghana is amazing. So I actually took a sabbatical. After that, I came first, saw what's happening over here, and I was like, no, this is mad. If I was to not do anything about this in the next few years, I will definitely regret it.
Yeah, you miss out.
But even going back before then, I had written down some of my goals, long-term goals, and long-term goal was to open up real estate in Ghana, clinics, hospitals, and that sort of thing. And that was before I even stepped foot in the country. So that was something like a passion. I was inspired to do something like that. And so that's what happened. So 2012, quite a few of my friends in between that time period were coming to me and saying, Trevor, if you go to Ghana, you're going to make it wicked, you're going to break through and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, why is it suddenly just coming like that? Maybe I'm meant to be over here. So I was like, okay, let me give it a shot. So then that's when we came. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, they're not wrong.
Makes sense.
They're not wrong. It all makes sense and everything. So I came for 2 weeks, saw the dynamics on the ground, saw the land and everything, thought this is amazing. I was staying in airport location, so very close to Accra Mall at that time. Accra Mall just kind of opened. It wasn't too long after that. So I was just like, this is ripe. Went back to the UK, did some time over there. At that time, I was managing a branch in Orpington.
Okay.
So I managed the branch in Orpington, went back over there, and I was just like, it was just like a calling. Like I just feel this urge, like, no, I can't be in the UK no more. I just had it. And so I decided to, do you know what, for me to do this, let me take a sabbatical and let me see how this is going to work. So that's what happened. I took 6 months sabbatical and came over to Ghana, kind of worked in Ghana, kind of saw the land and layout. I actually started off in Central Region.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. Most people will start in Accra.
I know. I went straight to the bush at that time.
Okay. And, he's a true Gar man.
Yeah.
He's like,
straight to the bush. I was like, no. I need to get to the grassroots. I need to properly understand what Ghana's about.
Right.
And so I went in Central Region. I was working with a developer back then who was doing affordable housing. And they were covering over 250 acres of land. And they were building houses from £17,000, right, for two-bedroom bungalows. Yeah, that's what it was, £17,000. But that was like 2013, 2014 period. Wow. 17,000, Wow. And so we started working with them, and things were going quite well. And
but at the time you were marketing these properties. You were doing the sales?
No, I was the chief operating officer.
Okay, I see.
So my job was to drive sales, to drive productivity on site, to make sure that things were taken over.
Makes sense.
It covered literally everything. More or less. That was from site visits to handing over to clients, to making sure that the project is going on well and all that kind of stuff, getting feedback, seeing what you can change, what you need to implement and all that kind of stuff. Of course, I had teams underneath me that works for me as well, and we work together. So that's what my job was, Chief Operating Officer.
That's a really different perspective to most people that kind of come, they land in Accra and they've got just a perspective of Accra.
Yeah.
But you went out to the Central Region and you had a different perspective and you were doing and managing the operations.
Yeah.
So let's get straight to it. When it comes to doing business in Ghana from a real estate perspective versus real estate in the UK, give me 5 differences, if you can stretch that far.
Whoa.
Give me 5 differences between real estate in Ghana versus real estate in the UK.
Okay. So real estate in the UK is pretty straightforward in my opinion, because when someone calls you or someone sends a message, they're giving you their information. They know you're a professional, so they're happy to, if you request things like AIP in principle, where do you want to move to, what's your budget, have you got a mortgage, that sort of thing. They're readily happy to give it to you. Over in Ghana, it's very coy, right? They don't want to give you the information. They just want to know, is it available? When you start to ask them about what's your budget and things like that, how much is it? Do you understand? So that's one of the difference. The other difference is the facilities, the banking facilities. A lot of people in the UK use banking facilities for mortgages and so forth. Difference in Ghana is mostly cash. If you're going to get a mortgage, interest rates like 12 to 14% on the dollar, and even double that on the city, right? So you can imagine how that looks. The other difference is just the professionalism within and the regulations within the industry itself is also a bit of an issue. Another thing is the quality of the builds.
This one brings heart palpitations to me.
So you look at things like the quality of the build and so forth, and also functionability. So those, you did give me 5 things. Wow, you did actually hit the 5. But I want to just pick up on the functionability as well as the quality of the build, because you now are working with a lot of developers and property owners in Ghana, and we're going to check out one of the properties that you're managing shortly. And, what do you look out for, and what do you recommend that somebody who's come to buy a property in Ghana, you can almost flip these things on its head, all these 5 things that you've mentioned. But what key things would you advise somebody who's trying to buy property? What would you say they should look out for? Oh, mate. First of all, the quality of the developer or the individual that they're buying from. Who are they? What's their background? What's their invested interest in the development that they're doing? Is it just a one-off thing? Is it something they continue to do? Reason being is because if it's a one-off thing, the interest of the follow-up and the aftercare once you've bought it is very slim.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's a developer, they have invested interest because birds of a feather flock together. So if you buy, and then you, Lorraine, I bought here, and then you come and visit me, you'd be like, oh, wow, Trevor, I like this area.
Yeah.
What else is available?
Pass them on. They will know. Yeah.
And then obviously you get referrals and go forward from there. So those are the two different things I would say. The other thing you need to obviously look out for, apart from the quality of the developer and so forth, is the quality of the build. Also look at what they've done previously. What other previous jobs have they actually done? And what are the quality of those like? You can also speak to those that have moved in there. What issues have they had? What kind of things do they have to deal with? Are they happy? If they're not, why? That sort of thing. Look out for things like leases and things like that. If it's a freehold, it's a leasehold. Ghana generally, as a rule of thumb, is leasehold. It doesn't matter whether you're in Accra Central. It doesn't matter whether you're in Cantonments, Leborgne, East Legon. Most of the land is leasehold. If you get a freehold, you are very lucky and very blessed. Okay, so that's what it is. What's the other thing that
you've mentioned quite a few things, and as you were speaking, something came to mind. I want to know, through all your experience being in Ghana, is there anything that surprised you? Like, or you've seen something that's just come out of the woodwork that just threw you. I mean, I'm not going to mention the person, but there was a situation where you had a client and you had to kind of help out with something that was surprising. But anything in terms of property-wise that you've had to really kind of be like, oh my, like you never expected it.
There's loads. There's loads of things that happens in Ghana that is out of the blue. For example, you as an individual may need to give the contractor working on your property directives as to how you want the tiles to be laid.
Sorry,
that's what
sorry, this sounds fun, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
It's literally the reality.
If it comes to the plumber, you probably will need to give directives to the plumber. How do I want the actual WC to fit against the wall?
Sorry,
I don't want it to be halfway in the middle of the...
flashback moments of a property that I had.
So these are a few of the things that you can mention, you know. They are the professionals, but unfortunately you've got to be a professional electrician, a professional plumber, a professional tiler, kitchen fitter, you name it, roofer. You've got to be there.
Yeah.
Don't ever if it's your own project, do not ever wait for the contractor to go there, do the work, and then you go and inspect it. Make sure you're there to start the job. Make sure you're there in the middle of the job, and make sure you're there at the end of the job. If you miss these 3 steps, it's on you. That's what I'm saying.
It's on you. So do you advise somebody to go down the building route or the buying route? What do you prefer?
Like I mentioned, if you've got a good quality developer, and the developer's good, they've got proven track record and things like that, I would say it's easier for you to go and buy something to buy. And then you can start to look to build your own stuff.
Yeah.
So, for example, you want to build a 4-bedroom house, a 5-bedroom house, find a studio that you're able to live in. Get a feel for the area, connections, work out what you want to buy, where you want to buy it, what you need it for. These are very, very important things.
Absolutely agree.
If it's schools that you need it to be close to, if it's business hubs, central of Accra, you need to give yourself time to be able to analyse what the landscape is like, what land purchasing is like. Because purchasing land in Ghana is by no means
easy at all.
Easy. Okay? Finding the right developer or the right individuals to buy it from, making sure the land is registered and titled, or just titled at least, of some sort. Making sure there's no land litigations going on the land, making sure you can put a fence wall around the land, making sure you can put a security post at least, without people coming out of the woodworks. There are so many different layers to things that happen in Ghana that you as a diaspora may not be aware of. So it's always good to, go through, do your due diligence, inquire with the right people and so forth.
Indeed, he's echoing everything. Everything you will see on this channel, he's basically said it all, you know, and I think it's really, really important. That's the reason why I do what I do, because personally for me, I use my own personal experience, right? A lot of, they do say sometimes, experience is the best teacher. Not that I want you to go through the experience I've been through.
You don't want to go through that.
At all, okay?
But you know what? I will say something though, Lorraine. Ghana, it's... you got to go through the baptism of fire.
Do you know what? I kind of agree with him to some extent.
Yeah,
on that.
you've got to. I think you've got to get burnt to a certain extent.
A few times,
right? I wouldn't suggest doing it frequently because that's not an enjoyable experience. But I think it's like Lorraine said. It's not all about you going through it to learn, but it also does kind of help for you to kind of avoid future mistakes and future errors. Because sometimes we kind of want to go with our gut, as in, I feel this is right, I feel I can trust this person, and then you skip some of the process, right? Which is, it can happen. Yeah. Because especially when you come from the West, you've got the lawyers, you've got conveyancing, you've got, you know, regulations. If they don't do it a certain way, you can get compensation on that. It's not so easy over here to do that. So
you're absolutely right. Yeah,
so I wouldn't suggest for you to continue getting burnt. What I would suggest for you to do is to get a professional to assist you and guide you. It may cost you, but it will cost you far less than you sinking your last earned money and not getting anything out at the end. So that's my little bit of suggestion there.
We can end this conversation right now because he basically said it, you know. But I completely echo everything that you mentioned. And, you know, as you were speaking, it just reminded me of some of my personal experiences where I felt that I was going with my gut and purchased something and skipped going for a lawyer. That was one of the examples, you know. I skipped getting a lawyer.
Wow.
I skipped getting a house inspector. There were so many different steps that I skipped. I skipped potentially getting a valuer who could verify that the price that I'm buying the property for is actually worth the price I'm paying.
Okay.
You know, so there's a lot of steps that I missed out. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes it makes sense to go through the baptism of fire. Not only do you learn the mistakes and learn from them, but you also build your network.
Yes.
You build your network. You now know who to call when something goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very, very important. So what was your outcome? Just out of interest.
One of the properties I actually had to do a distress sale because it was structurally, you know, a lot of structural issues happened as well. You know, so yeah, there's a whole load of, and if I start, I will end up probably crying.
Oh, sorry.
You know?
We don't want that. We don't want that on this channel. This channel is about positive
but go
vibes.
To be honest, go and check out one of my previous videos. I actually do share my personal experience on some of the challenges I had faced when I purchased my first property in Ghana back in 2016.
Oh wow!
Right? So that was that experience. But all the things you've mentioned as well, especially around land litigation issues. One of the lands that I purchased on my first trip in 2012. I only got it registered, you know, about 7 years after. Like, it took a very long time. So a lot of these things, once you actually learn more about the process, you understand. So before we check out one of the properties you're managing, it'll be great just for people to know more about what is your perspective on some of the trends in terms of what's happening in the real estate space in Ghana, primarily locations that people should look out for when they're coming in. You did say people need to come, get an understanding of the lay of the land. But generally, where would you say are the kind of like the hot cake areas and the areas to keep your eye on, because in the 5-10 years, potentially these areas might be gold dust?
Okay, that's a lot to unpack over there. But I'll say to you, look at a place like Chado. Chado's a really good area. East Airport area is really good. Spintex surrounding is really good. Adenta area is very good. Going towards Ebri or Yarifa. Those are kind of areas. East Legon Hills, Santo, Katamanso. Those kind of areas are very good. They're all developing. The road networks are improving. Botiman. You got the stadium that was over there and things like that. So these are all very, very key areas. Just a few to mention.
He's mentioned it. Go for it. You're going to mention something.
No, I was going to say to you, well, if you want more, get in touch.
There you go. He knows it all, right? He has a portfolio of hundreds of properties that he is also selling as well. So please do get in touch with me and I'll pass you over to him as well. And just to finally as well, in terms of the real estate space and the trends, for somebody who's starting out in the market, what do you recommend they go for? Studio, 1 bed? Do they go for that 4-bedroom house they're looking for? Obviously, it depends on their investment strategy and what they're looking for. But generally, where do you think it's got the highest yields? Where do you think what kind of makes sense in terms of the property type at this moment in time? Okay, so I would say to you, definitely depends on your budget, number one. Number two, I'll say it depends where you want to be located. Location is key, but affordability is also quite key as well. I suggest considering studios and 1 beds as entry point. The risk is less. Maintenance is less.
Management service charges are less. So those could be that starting point for you to be able to see. And then, of course, once you've settled down and you kind of get an idea as to what you want to do really going forward, whether there's going to be a family home you want to build or an investment portfolio you want to build, you can then work it up from there. Okay, so if it's investment, studios 1s and 2s are always best to go for. If it's a family home, then you're looking at the 3, 4s and 5s that you'd be looking for. Now in Ghana, they're not offering you those compound houses, and people are not looking for huge houses as they used to.
There was a waste
before. It was a waste of space and a waste of time, really. And a lot of people in Ghana are not really keen on maintenance. So that is a major issue. You've got a lot of people's walls which has got damp rising and things like that, giving it liquor paint, house walls are peeling, and those kind of things, roofing are coming off and so forth. So I would definitely say to you, get something that's manageable, especially if you're thinking of doing the 50-50. So 6 months outside of the country, 6 months over here.
Hybrid,
get something that is an apartment or something. You could do Airbnb, you could rent it short term, long term if you want, and just schedule your time when you're going to come in. So
Indeed. And for somebody who's just starting out, the question I always get, which it does vary because everybody has their own budget, but most people come and be like, okay, how much do I need to get started in real estate in Ghana? How much do I need to start to buy property in Ghana?
Well, we had a couple of developments that are going off at the moment, and these developments are starting from anything from 25%. Okay, so you could put, if it's 100,000, for example, you could put 25K down and then spread the payments over 42 months or something like that for the development to be built. So these kind of opportunities are really good. Like I mentioned earlier on, if you're purchasing from a developer that's qualified, they've got history, you've seen what projects they've done previously and so forth, it's always good to work with them when they do a launch. So off plan really does help. However, there are some developers that have done previous projects, that have kind of worked first phase, they've done a second phase as well, but the third phase hasn't quite worked out so well. What can you do about those kind of things? It's very difficult. Can you get insurance? Can you get something to protect your finance, escrow, all that kind of stuff? You may just need to look into those kind of things. Or just buy something that's already built. That might just save you the whole heap of headache. But there is a real benefit when you buy off plan. I'm
a team off plan person, personally. I've been team off plan for a while, but I do understand for somebody who's coming at it and they might not, they've heard stories, for example, they might be a bit wary of potentially buying off plan.
Absolutely.
And I get it as well, but I think the things you've mentioned as well are quite helpful to help people just to safeguard their investment.
You need to safeguard yourself, so you could work on a threshold basis. So you could go in and say, okay, now I'll pay 25%, get the foundation sorted out, get to the lintel, I'll pay another 30 or 40% of it, get to the roofing, I'll pay another 10% or so, and then when you complete, I'll pay the outstanding balance. So you can potentially do something like that if the developer is flexible on those kind of bases. Also, I'd definitely say to you, if a developer tells you you're going to build in 2 years,
add an extra
24 months or so, just give yourself an allowance of 6 to 12 months after that, okay? Because it's not the Western world where, you're going to be able to hold them accountable and be able to put pressure on them. They're just like, the money's not there, so we're going to sit on it until the money comes. And that could make a difference between you relocating to the continent or you not being able to relocate to the continent at the time you planned. And so those kind of things will give you some sort of allowance.
Indeed. And just finally, what would be your kind of like takeaway or your piece of advice to somebody who wants to start it? Or in fact, let's actually go to, why should somebody consider buying a property in Ghana?
Oh, this is my number one. Look, I came to Ghana. I've been in Ghana for 3.5 years. And I'll be honest with you, despite all the ups and downs, it hasn't been a choice where I've thought to myself, it's better for me to be in the UK. It's easier for me to be in the UK because that's what I've all known. But I see Ghana as a continent that is fast developing. It has a lot of eyes on it. If you get here sooner rather than later, you're going to benefit from it. There are loads of people that are not or have any connections to Ghana and they're relocating over here in droves. So if you do have heritage over in Ghana and you're sitting on the fence and that sort of thing, I very much doubt that between the next 3 to 5 years, you will be able to afford in the areas that you probably want to live in. And I don't want you to be blaming somebody about that. because at this moment in time is the best time to get in the market, anticipate what's going to happen, and go with the ride. So that's what I'll say.
Go with the ride. Mr. Trevor Tackie, thank you so much for joining us today. We've learned a lot. He's echoed a lot of things that we've been saying, and just to hear the fantastic, perspective that he shares about Ghana and the real estate market. So Trevor, thank you so much for joining me today.
Lorraine, thank you so much. And I think you're doing a wonderful job allowing the Diasporans to be able to see what's going on in Ghana and so forth. I know it's not easy, but it is worthwhile, okay? So guys, look, my only suggestion is don't be fearful, push beyond the fear, but be on ground. Come down and see for yourself, okay? What's going on.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you.